Hi, SCAC family. My name is Jason Chan. I've been attending SCAC for 9 years. I'm a deacon and also the secretary of the governing board. The governing board is responsible for both the English and Chinese ministry operations, including staffing and finances. I'm going to share the SCAC finances with you today. This video is something new as we try to provide more context and transparency into our financial situation. And I'm going to walk through our finances in 3 parts. The first is the big picture. The second is our finances this year. And the third is next steps moving forward. Okay, so let's look at the big picture, starting with the net income infographic here. The blue is offering and the red is expenses. And in 2018, our offering was less than our expenses here. So we ran a deficit. Same thing in 2019. And we're also projecting a deficit in 2020 and 2021. So why are we running a deficit? Well, it's 2 things. One is an increase in expenses due to adding staff for ministry, and the second is a decrease in offering. On the staffing front, we've added 7 new ministry staff and had some changes. But we really feel that God has blessed us with the people that have been brought on. In the English congregation, Pastor Tung transitioned from youth to adult ministry as associate pastor, and our very own Serena Kim interned with us as a student ministries intern. We now have an open position for a full-time youth pastor. In the Chinese congregation, Pastor Li joined to lead the Mandarin ministry, answering a prayer for a Chinese native to join. And we also had been recruiting for a Chinese pastor for many years, and God finally answered our prayer by adding Pastor Thomas Sang and Pastor Tom Chow to primarily work with families. Pastor Andy Chow increased his hours after completing his seminary degree, and Stella So joined as our evangelism coordinator, and she also works with our seniors, which has been especially important during this pandemic. For church operations, Rick Samphao joined as full-time facilities assistant. We had a hard time getting handyman work done before, and he's been a great help to us. And this year, we've also added A.D. Chan as a part-time bookkeeper. So that's a lot of God's blessing. We're blessed to have our pastors and staff. Let's move to the next section to see how staffing relates to expenses. So let's look at the expenses pie chart here. The blue is the ministry staff, which is 78% of our expenses. In addition to salary, it also includes health benefits. Healthcare costs have risen dramatically in the US, and we've also been impacted. Over the last 3 years, the health costs have risen 25%. Our second largest expense is operational expenses in the light gray. This is fellowship budgets and events such as conferences. And the third is our missions budget, which is in the dark gray. We've reduced both these budgets by 33%, mostly by canceling in-person events, training, and conferences. Next, let's look at the general fund offering bar chart. The gray is 2019 and the blue is 2020 offering. And for 2020, offering is up 3% this year, which is remarkable in this period of economic uncertainty and also transitioning to online giving. So thank you for your faithfulness and continuing to give. We also received a loan of $172,000 from the federal government through a CARES Act, which is eligible to be forgiven. We thank God that he provided a brother in our church to help us navigate this tricky application process. So even with the current level of giving and forgivable loan, like I said earlier, we'll be at a net deficit this year. So what's the next step? Our current financial forecast is that we'll be in a deficit again in 2020 unless there's a change. And continuing to have years of deficit is unsustainable for the church. So we're aiming to break even this year. Let's look at the bottom of the infographic. To help us break even, would you consider meditating on 2 Corinthians 9:7? Each of you should give what you have decided in your heart to give, not reluctantly or under compulsion, for God loves a cheerful giver. SCAC and you have always been a generous church, and we'd like to encourage a heart of generosity and to give as you are called, not just because of what the church needs. And we're confident that the Lord will provide. Like the verse says, don't feel like you're compelled, but would you pray about it first? Secondly, if you haven't started giving to SCAC and we're your home church, would you consider giving? Third, if you are giving, would you consider giving 10% to SCAC? You might be giving 10%, but not all to SCAC. Would you give 10% to SCAC and then additionally to other organizations? If 10% isn't possible, then can you give an additional $100 or a month or $25 a week? The goal of this video is to present the needs of the church transparently and trust him. Again, please pray about it and give as you feel led. Thanks for your time. If you have any questions or comments, I'd love to talk to you. My email is djpraise@gmail.com. Thanks. Bye.